Can you please tell us about the protocols that you have had over the past year because of the pandemic that's been going on?
So, as Casalitas has continued to receive individuals being released out of ICE or Border Patrol or CBP custody, we've had to be very cautious about making sure those folks don't integrate back out into the communities without being tested for COVID or quarantining if necessary. So, everyone who has come to us has received a COVID test. And then, if they were negative, they were able to travel forth to their sponsors and family in the US. If not, they remained with the Casa Alitas Welcome Center staff in quarantine and received medical oversight and any type of assistance they needed until they tested negative, and then we provided the same assistance to move them forward.
And how did MPP and other Trump policies meant to restrict asylum seekers have an impact on your numbers, the numbers of people that you saw and your operations?
It definitely had an impact on us. We did not see MPP become fully implemented in the Tucson sector until about January of 2020, which was very shortly before the pandemic really took hold of all of our communities. We saw the number of folks coming to us drop from 25 to 40 folks a day at that point down into very, very few numbers. At the same time, there were folks who were continuing to be released from immigration detention centers in our state who had been highly COVID exposed and would have integrated directly into the communities or into public transportation systems if they did not have the opportunity to come to Casalitas and go through testing and quarantine as necessary.
You recently put out a call for volunteers. What are you expecting in the next few weeks or months?
We are expecting a significant uptick in the number of individuals who will be allowed entry into the U.S. As we've already seen, MPP has started to roll back in certain ports of entry within the U.S. That has not happened in Arizona, though it's certainly a possibility that will occur. We have been in very close contact with ICE and Border Patrol and CBP as they are engaging more proactively with the communities and the border shelters, making us aware of the upcoming increase in numbers that they know will be admitted.
Teresa, you mentioned more communication with ICE and the Border Patrol. Back in 2018 and 2019, they were dropping migrants off at Greyhound stations in places like Phoenix and Tucson. And then later they started taking them to places like Casa Alitas. What do you think is going to be happening here in the near future? Have they told you, the federal government officials told you what they plan to do next?
Yes, they definitely are communicating the parameters under which they are operating and trying to assess. Literally on a daily basis, they are trying to assess what our capacity is to respond to their need to drop folks off, or to remove folks from their custody into the community itself. So within Tucson, we have had a much better communication with ICE and Border Patrol and CBP than in some other communities, even such as Phoenix.
What do you need most? Is it just hands on deck? Is it people making donations? Is it money? In order for you to get your mission accomplished, what would you like to see coming in?
We certainly appreciate having volunteers join us and support this work and become a part of the community effort. We do need to provide additional shelter space, and that will require financial resources. We also need to support transportation. In some cases, in very few cases, that's helping folks the migrants move from the city of Tucson out to their homes. But in some cases, we might be required to help transport folks from out in the rural communities into Tucson in order to receive shelter services here.
And Teresa, whether you agree with Trump's policies or not, millions of people did support his tough stand on illegal immigration and the fact that he was trying to keep more asylum seekers from entering this nation. What would you say to them, to those people who supported Trump's policies, when they say we don't even have enough resources for people in this country, let alone allowing tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people into this country?
The way that I've always had to think about it, I get overwhelmed by the numbers. So when I think about, 60,000, 400,000, whatever number of folks it is that approach our borders every year looking for asylum, I get overwhelmed as much as anyone else does and think it's just not possible to respond to those type of numbers. Instead, I focus on the individuals, the people themselves who come to you. And when you are responding directly to a mom who is trying to protect her two little children and has fled a life-threatening situation in her home country, and the only hope that she has for their health and safety is the United States, you respond differently.
Teresa Cavendish, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Tony.